Can't you feel the chaos waking, running out of time? But this world is ours to save, so hold the line. It's through or die.
Welcome back, guys. We are back.
Hello.
Is bridging the biblical gap.
It's one of those tongue
Shay,
twisters. It's going to take a minute.
With Shay and Jay, we are back with another episode. It's like we never left because we are back again.
So fast.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're in the same place right
We'll
now.
make it a habit.
Yes,
We're gonna make it.
We're going to. It's already happening. The prophecy is real.
Who are you telling?
What a nice day. It's very nice out today, and we got to enjoy some of the sunshine and visit, and we are back and ready to dive right into it. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
Share with your friends.
Make sure you check out the last episode because it was a banger, and also share with your friends like Shay said. We appreciate you guys being here. We appreciate the support. And we encourage you guys to keep watching because there's more stuff coming. And as things develop, like we said in the last one, there will be more. And we have some stuff coming in our bag. We got a little surprise. We got a little something that we're gonna do, and it's gonna look pretty cool. So
yeah, no, I'm excited.
Tuned.
I'm excited.
You should be.
I am. I know the last time we got into this, we talked about relationships, vulnerability, such things.
We talked about a lot of stuff last time, actually.
We did, and it's really easy to get personal really fast with people and for it to hit people. I find it interesting. So since 2020, obviously the world changed. And since then, I feel like there's been this spiritual veil that is like lifted where all of a sudden believers more so probably were the forefront of being like, something's happened. And then such, and going out, like I said, we can dive into this Bible and we can really get personal and really talk about all those things. But I wanted to talk about a few things that have popped up because when I think of bridging the biblical gap, it's about taking what was said, finding out where it is now and how that, comes together. And sometimes seeing is believing for people. Blessed are those who believe without seeing though. So.
Which there's a lot of them. Can't touch it, see it, smell it, feel it, or anything like that. But it's true though.
But there's so many things that are coming up that are different, and obviously we have a platform now between TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everything under the sun. That you can start to see things and research things, and so the conversations that people are having are much different than they were having 15, 20 years ago. Maybe in some circles they were talking about this, but not on the platform that they are talking about it now. I'm not saying that people haven't been unaware of these things. They have been. But for the first time in history, we're talking people are discussing things biblically on a global level with each other in real time. Welcome to a podcast. So, right. And that's really like what's happening.
TikToks, which we're going to put some in here as well, but there's some TikToks.
Because people are deep diving into stuff. They got questions.
Yep, Instagram Reels, and there's a lot of stuff that people are posting just out of their own curiosity and what people believe and all sorts of stuff. And there's some alarming stuff out there. Whether it be true or not, whatever people are posting.
Alarming. And here's the thing is that when if you can have a spirit of discernment, you know what's what. You know what's BS and you know what's not, and you can tell what's, and and believe me, we've all seen that movie. They've created them for you to see. So you've seen this movie. You've all seen this movie. You know what happens. You know how this works. You just don't think you know how it works. But I will tell you one of the things that have come up that have become a huge topic of discussion. So these are the things that I'm seeing on social media that are huge topic of discussions. The number one is the Nephilim. Have you heard of the Nephilim?
For the benefit of the podcast, I'm going to say no, but you kind of told me, but
you really don't know what I'm talking about, so that's okay.
Necessarily.
So the Nephilim was a race of giants that were created they were the offspring of angels and humans, females.
They make a lot of anime cartoons about the Nephilim.
Well, here's the thing is they make a lot of stuff based off giants, and they don't even know about it. But it says here again, Genesis. Like I said, a lot of stuff happened in the first book that people just do not pay attention to. So,
by the way, Genesis, first book.
First book of the Bible is
of
Genesis.
Bible.
Last
Yep.
book is Revelation. Both books the enemy doesn't like because the first one tells you what he did, and the last one tells you what's going to happen to him. So he don't want you to read those books. So I highly suggest you do. But in Genesis 6, it says, when human beings began to increase in number on the earth, the daughters were born to them, and the sons of God saw that the daughters of human were beautiful, and they married any of them that they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. They were made mortal after what we discussed last time, which was the authority given from humans to Satan after God had given it to us. By giving in to him, this is what we've done. Their days will be numbered 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, and by afterward, he means like David and Goliath. Goliath was a Nephilim. When the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them, they were the heroes of old, men of renown. And what's funny about that line right there, they were heroes of old, men of renown. That's been said in different parts of literature throughout history with mythology in different Greek god mythologies or whatever, Hercules, stuff like that. And they get mentioned in the Bible, but this is what they called them, these different gods. So if you have angels that are coming down here and they are of a different breed than we are, and their greatness is much more because they have a heavenly realm they came from where we were just born within God's grace, right? You have these people, they come down and they're now corrupting what God has created, and they've decided to do it on their own. And they have, they mate with these women, they create these giants, and then they teach them all sorts of things that they're not supposed to be taught. And so if you jump into the book of Enoch, and I want to make a distinction, the book of Enoch is mentioned in the Bible. It is not God's breathed word. I want to be clear that the Bible is God's breathed word, which means what he wanted to be said is said in here. And it is the relationship between you and him comes out of this Bible alone. This is your relationship with him. The book of Enoch
takes it differently.
Right.
Everybody
and it's a different relationship because everyone has it. Yeah, exactly. The book of Enoch is a historical document written by the prophet Enoch, who one of the two, because Jesus died and came back to life. Enoch never died. God just took him up and took him straight to heaven. He got to surpass death. Like, if someone was going to write a book that you were going to listen to, would be the guy who never died. You see what I'm saying? So he gets taken up and he writes this book, and it gets read. I'm pretty sure somewhere it says in here, Jesus' brother read the book of Enoch. So in this book, this is not one. In this book, it says, it happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the angels, the sons of heaven, beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, come, let us select ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. Then their leader, Samaza, said to them, I fear that you may perhaps be indisposed to the performance of this enterprise, and that I alone shall suffer for so grievous a crime. So they're fully aware of what they're going to be engaging in. They're fully aware this is something that they should not be doing. But you see, when you want to control things how you do it, you're willing to exploit whatever you can to gain what you want out of it, right? And they created these Nephilim giants. On top of that, they continues to go on about these different angels that come together, and they teach their wives. So when you're married to somebody, and you have intimate conversations, you talk about all sorts of stuff. And if you're an angel and you married a woman, what are you going to teach her? All the things that you know. And what do you know? You know things they do not know. And so it says in here that these angels, what happened was, let's see what it says. It says, Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates. Mind you, this is pre-flood. So this is in Genesis 6. So this is before Noah and the flood happened. This is why Noah and the flood happened, was because of this. The fabrication of mirrors and the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments, the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows. So you see how makeup and mirrors, vanity, all these things were produced? Yeah. The use of stones of every valuable and select kind, and all sorts of dyes and things of the world. Impiety increased, fornication multiplied, and the transgression corrupted all their ways. One of the angels taught all the sorcerers and dividers of roots. One taught the solution of sorcery. One taught the observer of the stars. One taught science. One taught astronomy. One taught the motion of the moon. And men being destroyed cried out, and their voices reached the heaven. It then goes on and it continues how God tells the angels, go to the son of Lamech. Well, if you look in the Bible, the son of Lamech was who? Noah. Go to Noah, tell him to build an ark, shut himself in with all the animals. We got to flood everybody. So here we are. So everyone's discussing this stuff, and they're researching, and they're finding, archaeologists have found bones, they have found skulls, they've found femurs, they've found all sorts of evidence of these giants.
I'm going to show a video.
Everywhere.
So once we'll get through it, you guys are going to see the video. I'm going to play it here, but you guys are going to see it. We won't be able to play it now, but you guys are going to see what I'm talking about.
We'll pop in
here.
a little bit so you guys can understand what that is. But these giants were part of why the flood was even a thing. It wasn't that, people were just bad and God was mad and was going to punish everybody. We're talking these giants. They said that they were as tall as cedar and as strong as oak trees. That's huge. And we're talking the beginning of the world. So oxygen is fresher. For everything is like brand new.
Is anybody's mind blown yet? Mine kind of is.
Well, in my mind,
I'm trying to keep up.
If these giants were huge, we must have been bigger. Our lives were longer because it says in here that we were immortal. Now we're mortal. Their days are numbered. And before God numbered him down to 120, all these other guys lived. Let's see. Adam lived 930 years. Seth, 912 years. His son, Seth's son, Enoch, 905 years. Enoch, 365 years. Enoch lived 365 years. Enoch is the one that didn't die. Well, and then he'd take off. And so that was it. And then the flood happened.
Now we get maybe 60, 70, 80.
That's almost 1,000 years that they're living. Could you imagine? Like, I've heard of someone being sentenced 9 lifetimes. Like, that is a straight punishment. Like, if you don't think Adam and Eve had to make up for their transgression, living 900 years, birthing all these children, and watching everybody corrupt themselves, that had to have been a punishment all in itself. Like 900 years on this planet, nobody wants to even make it to 50 and be like, I'm out. This stuff is done. It's crazy, 900. So then he depicts us and puts us back down to 120 years now. Because
my mom is like 58, and she's like,
and that's not even half her life.
I'm ready to
that's
go.
Over.
She's like, this has been a lot. I'm like, calm down, don't say that.
On
stuff.
average, 35 years old is half your life. If you live to 70, 35 is half your life. Right, think about it. So
I'm 35 years old right now.
Exactly.
I've lived half my life.
At least. Damn. Yeah. Maybe if you live longer, of course, that increases or decreases depending on when you live to, but that's the reality of it. So he floods the earth because they're destroying every plant life, all the animals, all the people. They're destroying each other. Like, that's not what God intended. That was gross. They completely counterfeited and disrupted everything that God intended.
He said on this day, things were not great. Things were not good on this day.
But in the beginning was God.
Things were good.
And the Word was with God. And it says...
pretty sure like right at the beginning he said when they created all things and all things were good or great or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and yet when it says, it continues to talk about, all the things that God created, but it's like he created knowing that Jesus was already with him. See, because he said, hold on, let me find this, because I think he says it in, was it Matthew or John?
It's just crazy, like how much.
And you have to go back and forth, and God makes you go back and forth in this.
You have to go out and find that information. It's all there.
Oh no, it is. But hold on, I think it's in John. Actually, now that I think about it. Okay. It says John 1, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. So, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. And who's the Word? Jesus. Jesus is the flesh, because he became flesh.
Gotcha.
See, God had to take himself and put himself into a man's body because we needed a sacrificial man to die for our sins. So he created the perfect person to die for us. And then it says, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So you want to know why people struggle with pronouns these days? The only they, them that exist is God, because he's 3 in 1. And I know that's going to really irk certain people, but think about that. Like, even when it comes to demons, the demon legion is because there's multiple demons.
That information's in the Bible?
Well, God says the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the God was the Word. It says that. So what it's saying is because God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit is the Trinity that we believe. So that means God is God in His
Jesus,
form,
and the Holy Ghost,
and they're
or
the
Holy
same
Trinity.
person,
Yep.
but in 3 different forms. So they're not 3 different people. They're the same person, but there's different purposes for each form He's in.
So let me back up to the fence real quick and ask you this. Those people that are making such a big deal about their pronouns and how they're identified and stuff, do any of them know any of this and then also understand the insignificance of what they believe they're identifying as?
No.
As it pertains to what's in the Bible?
No,
That's
most
the
people.
crazy part.
Well, the crazy
It's
part
so
is that people.
insignificant in comparison to what they're doing.
Right.
Or, I mean, what they're doing is so insignificant to what's in the Bible.
What's being said about it.
What's literally in the holiest book on earth.
But if you're trying to exploit God's creation, how would you do that? By making them believe things that aren't true or not good for them. But I think it's funny because the only they, them that I can think of is God, because He is they. He is God, He is Jesus, and He's Holy Spirit. The demon legion is the reason why it's called legion is because there's multiple demons that come at one time. It's multiple demons. It's not one demon that is many. So the devil's not even a they, them. But he'll make you think you are. Real quick. I think that's interesting. Anyway, moving on, because I don't want to get too stuck on that subject. Before we get real comments coming in and we get canceled.
Oh, yes.
You know how that goes. We can get canceled so quick with stuff like that. But, so, backtracking. So now we're back to, this is what the episode, this is what people are talking about. And they're finding these discoveries and things like that. Well, then you go a little further, and then, the flood comes. And God saves Noah. Is Noah perfect? No, Noah's a drunk. He totally is.
Lots of wine.
Yeah, but He saves Noah. Why? Because his blood was not corrupted by the angel blood. He did not. His family wasn't corrupted like that. They were all still, because Jesus had to come from that. So God saves Noah, his family, the animals. They come 2 by 2, all the things. He goes on the boat. Well, in 1960, there's a whole video where in 1960 they had one of those fly crafts that went over, and they found something in the mountains of Ararat, which in the Bible it says where the boat rested in the mountains of Ararat. There's different signs about, that are interpreted to Village of 8 and all these different things. And then something had happened where the earth moved, and either they said the boat came up or the earth fell down. But either way, now this boat was exposed, and they can see what can be Noah's Ark. And everyone's like, oh, well, it's just whatever. Well, they went in, and back in the 80s, so it's 20 years after this whole thing was even pointed out, this guy goes in, and he starts drilling holes and starts seeing stuff, and there's compartments. There's wood. There's petrified wood. There's iron.
That's the TikTok you showed me.
Right. So there's multiple TikToks we're gonna put on there, so that you guys can kind of get an idea of what other people are starting to see. And the thing is, people are seeing these things before they're understanding where it's coming from. And then it starts to make sense, because when you start to read that there's already a book that's already told you about this stuff, that's when you're like, what? But they have iron rivets, and this was again, people, before the flood. But all these angels are teaching humans heavenly knowledge that they're not supposed to know.
Think about that. Iron rivets and washers. That
crazy. Was before the flood, folks. So it's not like these are like ignorant people walking around with nothing. They know the thing.
But this is all just fake stuff we see on TikTok, right? This stuff never actually really happened, right?
Well, here's what I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna bridge something to it. So you know how when you watch movies, there's always the group that's got the money, they look the best, they have the uniform, and they're going to win, but they always lose, right? And then you've got the team that's like, don't know what they're dressed in.
The underdogs.
Okay, so a good movie that I use to represent that is the movie Twister. Do you remember the movie Twister? And they had the
janky truck.
Yeah, okay,
and
right. But they did the machine. Stuff, and they showed up.
They put in the
there
work.
Was 2 different groups, right? And
the other ones had all the like sophisticated technology and all the good stuff.
But no one cared over there. And these were okay. So these are the different types that when it comes to dealing with this kind of stuff, is that this is what you are going to see.
Great analogy.
Yeah, but this is what you're going to see when it comes to this, is that these movies actually will allow you to see what they don't want you to see. Does that make sense? But I use these movies as analogies.
Totally.
So that one is Twister's the one I use when it comes to when I see people on TikTok. So when I see people that show up and they're telling the world movie or their dreams about heaven or hell, people that are reporting their experiences with Christ, all these different things. I'm watching a huge population of people who don't know each other, don't look like each other, don't come from the same background, don't have the same beliefs, didn't start that way, don't do anything the same. And they are telling the same testimony with the same tone, with the same vocabulary, with the same descriptions, with the same conviction, and with the same conclusion that they've all chosen to follow this. And they all don't look like they got their ish together. They don't look like Hollywood over there who's putting on, goddesses of Oshun for Beyonce and whatever else they're doing over there with all these different gods and goddesses with whatever you're going to do, go do. But you're summoning things that they might understand, but nobody else understands. And you just ignorantly follow something that they understand, but you don't understand. You know what I mean? And it's a huge difference when it comes to
We'll save this
like
for
that.
another episode, but I'm just going to ask you, what do you think about Hollywood and how they incorporate so much Satanists and so much devil worshiping, and all their outfits are red and devil horns, Sam Hunt, Lil Nas X, and Rihanna, the Illuminati, that stuff?
But it's exactly what it is.
Ooh.
They're the poster children trying to convert God's children. And that's how you do it. Because why? They're bright and shiny. They got nice clothes. They look good. They have nice makeup. They've got fast cars. They got big houses. Look at their money. They have all this attention. People just love them, blah, 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 blah.
So what you're saying is don't believe everything that you see on TMZ
or
the Hollywood Unlocked.
And again, you have to understand.
E-News.
And the only reason why I say this is because I came from Hawaii. I wasn't born in Oregon. I was from Hawaii. I came here, and my mom had a thing, we're from a small island, and so stranger danger was a real thing being up in the big mainland like we were. So I was never allowed in other people's houses, so I stayed home a lot. And staying home, I watched movies a lot. And I became enamored with these stories, with these characters. I really enjoyed it to the point that, you start to fall in love with people. Like my big one was Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I write poetry, which people don't know I write poetry, but I write poetry. And my very first poem was on Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I was part of his fan club. I looked up the Screen Actors Guild. I was trying to get in acting in 7th grade. I tried to get in acting classes. They stuck me in like some sort of modeling acting class, but I was downtown trying to become an actor, wanting to do this stuff, trying to be, and for some reason, it always felt like a resounding no. Like there was no way, like I kept yearning for a lifestyle I was never going to obtain, not ever. And not because I couldn't do it, but that's what I would think. But for whatever reason, it always felt like a resounding no. As I was watch stories growing up and, go engulfed in things, I would start to go, research these actors or their characters or their stories, or if they're true, whatever, go on and go on and go on. And the older I get, and after 2020 came and the veil was lifted, it really put me in a weird place, because all of a sudden these movies that meant something to me at
like
some
looking
point,
back at your past experiences, right? Yeah.
And now it's like, I loved actors. Like Friends was one of my favorite shows. Now it's hard to watch some things. It's just hard to, and I still think it's funny, but it's like, there's so many things that are so hard to watch anymore now with actors or music. When you start listening, look what happened with Astroworld. Look what happened with, what's his name? Travis Scott, and that whole thing where everyone thought they were in hell.
And
like, why people think this stuff is a joke is beyond me, where I'm thinking,
you've seen all those not memes, but all the TikToks and stuff where they say the correlations between the open mouth is everybody walking into hell. The open. Well,
they had the video on the screen where it showed that you were walking in one thing and coming out the other.
Right. But have you seen like some of the referencing of?
I watched all that.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
when people are like, "Oh, those people don't mean," when you see the things about this, when they talk about the Bible, it's not true. I am telling you, I would believe someone who aligns with the Word of God more than whether you look good or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't measure based on your clothing or your money or your size, because usually that doesn't tell me much about faith. And in a lot, that tells me that you put your time and energy into the stuff that you have.
A lot of people, and somebody that I have been watching him since I was a little kid. He was one of my favorite actors. He's to some very cuckoo now because of his views on things and the certain stuff and whatnot. Jim Carrey.
I knew you were going to say that. And you know what's so funny? Because I love Jim Carrey, and I
love how publicly he is like, hey, they're watching. Hey,
he came out on
And
Was
it's
it
not
Jimmy Kimmel when he did the Illuminati thing and
And he's
everybody
like-
doesn't know. Yeah. And that's the thing is that you just
So
never
crazy,
know.
right?
But it's
Because-
all coming out though. See, I watched a
but
video
he's
about
not alone.
No.
There's other people too that,
Keep in mind, I watched a video about Beyonce and Jay-Z back in 2007.
Oh, there's some
This was
stuff
a
about that
long
though.
time
There's some
ago.
stuff about that.
That was the first time I ever heard anything about them being connected. I never stopped thinking about it, and I stopped listening to both of them at that point. That was way back when, maybe it was like 2008, actually 2009 is when I saw it. It was on YouTube. It was weird video. I don't know how I came across it, but it would show this exposure of the things that they would do in their concerts and the worshiping, and then the symbols and the goat things and the pentagrams. And then what got me is that Jay-Z wore a sweater that said, "Thou shalt do what thou wilt." And that comes out of the Satanic Bible. And I thought, and we're all done with that. And I stopped listening to it. But I didn't think anything of it until 2020 came. And then it like hit me like a train. And I was like, oh, now I can see that what I could not see before.
And there's
like-
a lot more that goes on with that. There's so much stuff
Do
where
I dare
people
bring up Epstein? Like you
No.
could bring up all sorts of
Did you
things.
see? Okay, so I'm gonna.
This is what
We
I'm
don't have to
saying.
dig into it, but so much. Did you see the list came out and
Mhm.
all these people that
Oh,
the
yeah.
flight log and all that stuff?
Yeah, you see all those people.
Hey,
on
guess
there?
what? Some of your favorite actors and actresses may or may not have been.
But
Probably
but
may
are,
have
but
definitely
are. Multiple
capitalized
times.
may to the island.
That's not the only island.
That's I
That's
know.
what's crazy.
That's
There just
crazy.
can't be one. That's what's crazy. And that's the thing is that people are like, there's no way that's happened. I'm telling you, they were sacrificing babies and children way back when. They've already been doing this stuff. Now they do it on such a level that it would blow your mind. That's because we got so many
But
people in the world.
This is all just conspiracy stuff that we're talking about. None of it has any truth to it. It's
Except
all
you
just
can read every single story that you're listening to on the news in the Bible, just FYI.
right. That
Because they've already done this. They've already been there. You can start tying in. We can go down a whole road between Noah's Ark and then it goes to this and then you can tie in.
What about the river that you were showing me?
And
the
then you
Euphrates?
ties in. So the Euphrates River. So that's the other one everyone's discussing. So the Euphrates
So my
River
friend
was,
also showed me something similar to
Right.
that, and he sent that to me, and he said they're building, and with everything that's going on in foreign countries, they're building the 1 million man or 2 million man army or whatever.
So in Genesis,
So crazy.
The Garden of Eden had 4 headwaters, so 4 different rivers that flowed from it. One of them being the Euphrates River. So we're talking like one of the first rivers of all time is still running, but it says in the prophecies that when the Euphrates River dries up, it'll release the angels. So the angels that were punished in the beginning, the Nephilim, these angels that defied God, ended up being, and they were the worst of them. I think there's like 4 of them, were put under the Euphrates River, and they were not to be released again until the river dried up. And in 2020, this river was full. And now, I mean, there is like not even puddles along this thing. They're finding different caverns.
No liquid.
No, there's
No
they're finding different
precipitation,
caverns,
no
all
nothing.
sorts of different things that were made, man-made, angel-made, whatever you want to say, years and years ago. People are, recording things, and not just one, and not from one site, like totally different sites. You're hearing the same type of noise that they're trying to put
Look
on
it up.
decimals.
I'm gonna
and it's
post a
not.
video here too.
So
look it up. Definitely look it up.
People are starting to wonder. People want to know what's going on. And the only thing I can tell them is that the only way to make sense of stuff is to really deep dive in some of the oldest historical books around. And one of them is the Bible. And it really starts to depict. The book of Enoch is another one. You really start to see this stuff. And when you hear people, and if they speak and they align up biblically, that's when more things start to make sense. Because your Holy Spirit, again, is from God. He is God within you. But that's like your your buddy partner. So like Jesus is the friend. Like when you need somebody to show up, he will show up. When you need your dad to deal with stuff, God shows up. And then when you need a friend, he shows up as Jesus. And then when you need a buddy that's like, yo, that's your Holy Spirit. So you've got all these different versions of God all with you all the time.
So what's kind of crazy about that is that the video you sent or showed was that certain video was the river had dried up and there was a hole in which I'll post it, but there was sounds coming from the hole, at least in the recording. And then there was another recording, but these sounds aren't ones that can be manipulated or made.
Not ones that can make your skin turn like that and make you all chicken skin. Like, no, it's not. Like, that's a lot.
Whoa.
Like, you can get chicken skin really easily. But I think it's interesting because even in the Bible, sometimes it says, you know, not everybody finds God by going to church. Sometimes meeting the devil is what shoves people straight to God because they're like, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. There's another video that I watched too that kind of, and like I said, it's all the same because when you talk about the Nephilim, so, you know, they're all flooded, they're all dead, but now you have these demonic spirits that roam the earth. And they're all the souls of the Nephilim because you have to understand they're not permitted to go to heaven and they're really not permitted to go to hell. Like this is, they're like the purgatory world that they live in. So they roam and they can afflict and they can engage, you know, and do all these things to people. And they just want what they want. They were selfish before, they're selfish now. There's videos of different rappers, different stars talking. And as they're talking, he's like, oh yeah, my mother had sex with an angel. I'm 3,000 years old, blah, blah, blah. And it's coming out of this dude's mouth on a microphone. Talking about how my mom had sex with an angel and I was a giant. And I'm thinking, obviously this dude's not a giant, but who's talking out of his mouth? You know, Beyonce talks about, you know, I felt something come over me and now this new person comes out. What? That can't be healthy.
You should probably
look at that. You should probably look at that.
Yeah.
But you know, but the enemy makes it look good. See, if he came at you like those scary sounds, you'd never go to him. But if he comes at you as like money, fame, fortune, women, whatever, all the desires of your little heart, all of a sudden the devil don't look so bad. And that's the problem. You know, is that he makes what's bad look good.
You know what's crazy? What I love about the podcast is we can have very light episodes. So the first episode was heavy. This last episode, you know, we've had a couple now, but the last episode was, I would say it was a little on the lighter side. This episode is like, are you keeping up? Because this is a little heavy.
It's a lot of info.
It's crazy.
But here's the thing is everyone's discussing it. Everyone is talking about it.
If you don't believe us, look on TikTok, look on Instagram Reels. It's crazy.
Like I'm saying, but you explain to me how this makes sense. You give me another better explanation than this Bible can give. And that's the problem is that nobody can. Nothing that is consistent in its logic throughout. See, that's the difference. People can sometimes explain 1 or 2 points, but they can't seem to figure out how to put in this, this, and this that goes along when I have a question. When you can consistently explain it throughout, that's a whole different story. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things that it's starting to come out and people are starting to ask questions and things, you know, and when you see stuff like why, I mean, child trafficking and trafficking is like $1 billion business. Billions of dollars goes into trafficking. Who's paying that? Joe Blow down the street? Probably not. Billions of dollars. Who has billions of dollars? Billionaires.
Elites.
Millionaires. Exactly. And why would someone, and this is the logical, and this is where people need to start asking questions. Why would someone who has all the money,
everybody's too scared to ask any questions,
all the money, all the fame, all the things, would ever partake in something so egregious as any type of trafficking? And you have to think about that. But again, then you have to listen to these other people who are being offered contracts for their children's souls or being offered all sorts of that for money, fame, and fortune. If that's what you want, he will give it to you. And when the bill comes, you're not going to want to pay it. You are not going to like it, but he will give you that which you want. But but do you give your kids everything they want? No. What happens if you do? You get spoiled, rotten kids. You don't give your children everything
There was
they want.
somebody, and I can't remember who it was. Of course, now when I need to remember, there was a celebrity, and I don't remember who it was, but they basically said, yeah, I got, you know, my singing contract. I want to say it was a woman too, but I really can't remember, but I got my singing contract. I got this. I got all of this given to me, and I got all this thrown at me. Well, and then she goes on to say, well, they took my mom. They did this. They did this. I want to trade it all back. I don't want any of this. I shouldn't have never signed for this, blah, 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 and all this stuff. It's crazy because they know.
Yeah. Well, I watched an interview. Michael Knowles, he's on Daily Wire. He interviewed this.
That's so crazy, though, how much truth to this there could be.
That's the thing. Is it makes more, even if you don't believe it, it makes more sense than the crap they put out there. That's the crazy part. And that's where people start believing because they're like, once something makes sense, you are willfully ignorant to ignore it. Willfully at that point. I watched an interview with Michael Knowles. He's from Daily Wire. I really like them. And he was interviewing a Catholic priest who was an exorcist. And you want to talk about, and that's the thing is people's experience. You cannot discount someone's real experience. I'm not talking about someone's BS they want to sell you that you know ain't true and you can poke holes all over it. I am talking about someone grounded who is willing to have a conversation just like this to tell you some crap that's going to blow your mind. You're like, and it makes sense. It just actually makes sense. Anyways, he starts going off, and there's so many different things. And he talked about how he met the devil himself. And it actually had to do with, because he said he was in the church, this priest, and then he left the church for like 20 years, and he became a banker on Wall Street. And not just any kind of banker. These are like hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars he's dealing with in money with these people, right? And he's watching people just stuff it up their nose and use it in sex. I mean, he goes, it is a lifestyle. He ended up coming back to the church and was still working as a banker, and he was struggling in his seminary as he was starting. He was struggling because, he's going out and he's still entertaining clients and he's drinking, but drinking and trying to get into the seminary lifestyle doesn't really go well with each other. So he went to the guy that was his mentor and was like, what do I do? And he said, okay. He goes, how about this? He goes, when you have to go entertain a client, you go to the bar early, let them know that when I order a drink, please only bring me, club soda. He goes, you can order it publicly, but then get club soda, and that way you're not drinking, and then you don't have to, you can save face. You just kind of do it. And he's like, okay, I'll do that. And he goes, but, be careful, because once you start making these choices, the enemy will come after you. So he goes, I come out of his office. He's like, it's like noon. It's like the middle of the day. He comes out of this guy's office, and he goes out, and he goes, there's this man standing, and he's just staring at them. Very well, beautifully dressed. This man is he's just staring at him and staring at him. So it's kind of weird, and he starts to walk towards his office, the church. And the guy comes up and grabs him, and he goes, let's get a drink. And he just kind of got freaked out and turned around and went back to his apartment because it was closer, went into the doors, and the guy was outside and just like laughing and laughing and laughing at him. And he just was totally freaked out, went back to, his mentor. Was like, this is what happened. Like, it just happened. And he was like, I told you. He's like, once you start making these choices, he's going to come after you. So, few years went by, and he was still kind of doing some, not like he was still like in it, and he was trying to get in it. And he ended up in Florida, this priest, with a couple of friends, and he ended up at this party. He was one of those, it was champagne bottle parties, like bougie, in Florida and stuff. And he's like, I'm sitting there with a friend, and she's in charge of the party, and we're sitting there, and they're talking about this gentleman across the way. And, he's gorgeous. Now he's, in shorts and stuff. And he looks over, and he starts to walk over. And as he walks over, I notice it's the same man from the street. And he walks over, and he goes, what are you doing here? I thought you were supposed to be a priest. And then told him, you do not belong here. This is my territory, not yours. You do not belong here. And dude, his friends were like, pay the bill, get the and they left. And he never again, like, he goes, I knew that this is not where I'm supposed to be. But and it sounds like it's like, oh, well, like nothing happened. But to have someone speak to you like that.
Sometimes it doesn't take a
from
physical.
An outside, you can feel that it's from out of the realm of the normality. You can feel it in your whole spirit. When he told it, I was like, holy smokes.
Even the story is, you know what I mean, for somebody
simple.
outside looking in, it's kind of like, ooh.
And he goes, and I met him twice, and he goes, the first time it didn't go so well. Second time, he left, and he hasn't encountered him since, but he's encountered all sorts of demons and things that he's dealing with. He's dealing with exorcisms on a serious level, like a serious level. But again, in the Bible, what does it talk about? Doing the same thing. So it's very interesting, but we're starting to see, if you guys start looking up, you're starting to see, and when it comes to deciding on who to believe, my best advice is to, if you're searching for truth, you're going to have to line it up biblically, because you'll find there are things that line up biblically and then things that do not. And then you'll see the difference in what those things produce. So figure out what lines up with what, and then figure out what it produces, and you will start to see what it is that us believers see.
And don't believe everything you read on Google, because that won't get you nowhere. Just
Google
trust me.
Is living under the same mind control. Somebody else told me something else, like, what is a television? Tell a vision. To tell
a story, a vision. Yep.
On what? On a program. With what? with channels. So they're channeling and programming you through a vision.
Brainwashing?
What was it called?
The Simpsons.
No, the brainwashing back that they did. The mind
MK
control.
Ultra.
They what they did on that scale, they've now put into little screens. Literally. We're on a screen.
How attached are you to this every single day? You can't even go to the bathroom. Once you wake up in the morning, what's the first? Literally, what's the first thing that you grab when you wake up in the morning? Do you reach over and do you hug your significant other?
We all struggle.
Do you go to the bathroom? Do you look for water? Do you do something? Or do you grab your phone and lay there for a minute and diagnose what's going on your phone before you do anything? Think about that. That is crazy.
And I'm gonna explain something very clear. Technology is not innately evil in itself. Okay? Just like money is not innately evil in itself.
Control it are, though.
It says in the Bible, it's the love of money is the root of all evil. Because you cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money. And I know on the money it says in God we trust, right? We're not talking about the God that I worship, though. We're talking about the God who's the God of this world, who's the prince of this world, who's the ruler of this world.
It's definitely not the person that they have with the triangle with the eye on it on the top of the money.
Right.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. So Satan is the God of this world. And those are the names that Jesus called him. He was the God of this world. He is the prince of this world. So on his money is in God we trust. In which God? Be careful you know what to shoot. Now, money is not evil because you can bless people with money. So if you can bless people with money, it's how you utilize the money. It's the same way with the way you utilize anything. Technology, the way you utilize technology can be good or it can be bad.
So if you get blessed with a bunch of money, don't turn around and buy a pound of cocaine and give it to all the homeless people around. And if you have,
although in Oregon it's legal, so they probably would.
If you have access to a cellular mobile device, don't hack into other people's stuff.
People are like, oh well, people that have money, they're just, no. You can use. It's how you use it. It's who you serve. It's what you do with it. Don't build taller walls. You build a longer table. And
wait, say that again.
You don't build taller walls. You build a longer table. That's why people be at my house all the time.
I like that.
I got a long time.
I like that.
But that's the reality. See, we're an experiment here in America, I've decided. We're an experiment on what it's like to isolate, seclude, and make people selfish of their own space. Because my mind, I'm like, why aren't we having communities that live together on a piece of property? You have people on their properties, like, why isn't there a community of people living in either one big house or multiple places? Like, why aren't we all investing into one and helping each other, raise each other kids, and doing the best by each other? Because we're the experiment. See, in the world around us, they have to strong arm all these countries, right? They do it by slavery and entrapment, all these things that they do to these people, right? They kill them. They do all sorts of stuff that they do not do here in America. You know how they get us? They manipulate us that we willfully choose to live this lifestyle. It's called the experiment, the great experiment, I think. Because they can't strong arm us because we have an army bigger than anybody else with everyone that has guns. But you can manipulate us because now we're the only country that seems to be confused on biological standards anymore. So, explain that one.
Destroying from the inside out.
Always. And here's the thing.
And that's how it goes.
Once you enter within the realm, Satan's realm, you're not exempt, whether you're in the room or out of the womb. You are not exempt. Roe v. Wade will teach you that.
Roe v. Wade.
40 million abortions.
Nice name
You
drop.
are not exempt. You are not exempt, whether in the womb or out of the womb. But boy, howdy, the excuses are for days. And I'm not here to argue that because that can be a whole nother podcast when it comes to abortion and stuff like that. I'm just stating my opinion. And
you notice how the episodes came out? They're starting to progress and things are getting deeper and hotter and deeper and hotter.
Because this is what's happening. People are really discussing it and they want some sort of point of view and they want to know what your opinion is on, especially if someone that's a believer. And, sometimes people
on the YouTube template, I'm just going to put a bunch of flames all over our episode because this one's going to be hot off the press. Literally, here we go.
It's because it's stuff that people are discovering without understanding what they're discovering. And it's like, if you're discovering it, that means there was a creation in which it started. So you might want to figure out that book. you know, and like I said, you find me another book that explains the things on every level going on in the world, in our homes, in our schools, in anything. You find me a book that applies more to the totality of everything than this one.
So, stupid question. I'm going to play
There's never a stupid question.
the advocate here.
Okay.
Is there's good and evil, the good and bad, light and darkness, whatever.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
What's the counter to the Bible? Is there a book that is
Satan has a Bible. The Satanists have a Bible that they follow.
not the Bible?
Yeah, the Satanists have a Bible. There's lots of Bible. There's lots of things out there that say are the truth and they're not the truth. You know? And of course people are going to be like, oh, so every religion's wrong. Here's what I know. Somebody's going to be wrong. Because not all these things are going to be true.
And unfortunately, there's going to be some people that are going to suffer
And
when
that's
they
just the
find out
reality.
what the truth is.
But when you're watching more people discover a relationship with Jesus, it is unlike any type of religious conversion. You guys have to remember, one, Jesus was a Jew. Okay. Two,
She's getting serious. You guys have to remember.
Jesus was a Jew. Two, the religious people killed him. They went to the Romans and were like, you need to do something about this. But they didn't want to be the ones because they didn't want to get in trouble. But it's religious people that killed Jesus. You know what I mean? And people are like, oh, would he be with the marginalized? He wouldn't be with the marginalized either. He was not tolerant of bad lifestyles. He told you to sin no more. And if people weren't listening to him, they walked away. How many times did he yell at people? Woe to you, you hypocrites, you who do not see, you who do not hear. Like, because people were just, he would say parables. He talked in parables a lot, right? Giving some sort of relatable story to the faith. Even in his time, people were like, what do you mean? Why would you go after? They're talking about the literal words of of what he's saying and not the depiction of what he's meaning in your relationship with him and with God. Everything he ever talked about was about your relationship with God. Had nothing to do with anything else. Only that. And people today will depict like, oh, well, you know, when he says he'll leave the 99 for the one is the marginalized one that's blah, blah, blah. No, it's the one that was lost without him. It only has to do with him. It has nothing to do with your political agenda. He could care less. He don't vote.
He don't vote.
He don't vote. Not that I saw.
That's funny.
He don't vote. So that's all I know. But, you know, people want to put Jesus in some sort of box. That's what religion does. And people be like, you know, you're so religious. I'm really not. If you know me, I am not religious. But I'm all about relationships. I am.
I do really, I don't want to say it in like a bad way or anything, but it makes me fired up watching you get fired up about this stuff because she was going on and on and on. And I was just like, get it. And
because it is,
you can see the passion though. The passion is like literally pouring out of you. And it's really cool to see.
Because when stuff makes sense, like, okay, you know, like when you've been thinking about something and you couldn't, and as soon as you remember, you're like, oh, that's what it's like. Every team is like, I see what you did there. And the stuff that I'm watching other people even deep dive more than I am, like I'm wanting to deep dive even more than I am now. I mean, you have to go. And I got a Bible that has references because you got to go. He makes you go all over this book because he says stuff that just everywhere. You will find somebody relatable. You have to remember, these people were adulterers. King David, you know, the famous King David and Goliath, he became king of Israel, all the things. He also killed his best friend to get with the wife. You know what I mean?
That's right.
These people they're not perfect. They're broken. They're human. But they know that they need God's forgiveness. They know they need that. They know what they need to do. They've let their selfishness take over. Yeah. But they repented and, you know, moved forward. So people have to forget that it's not about a perfect lifestyle. Everyone's like, Christians have to be perfect. And the Christians out there that make everything look perfect, you might want to check yourself and figure out why that is.
Too perfect looking.
Because that's not how it is. We live in a broken world since chapter 3 of the first book.
That was just a few years ago, right?
Jeez.
Chapter 3.
I'm just saying. But, you know, when you start to research stuff, you know, looking up the Euphrates River, looking up the Lebanon, looking up Noah, the reason why it's so interesting is because they're all coming out in different things and they all are tied to the same purpose. And that's the mind-blowing part, is that you can take things that you're seeing with your eyeballs, you've heard in the past, you're reading the Bible and be like, and they all come like, and then God does it like this. When God puts stuff together, it's like this. It's like this even, and there is no, and you're just like, And
do you
it's
think
the
on the flip side
simplest.
of things, okay, so I'm going to be the advocate again. Do
Mhm.
you think on the other side of things, on the flip side of things, so Shayla believes this and she read it here and stuff like that. Do you think that there's people, say, use me for example, that hear you speak and hear what you're saying, do my own research, read some of the Bible and find these things and then they still go, maybe.
Sure.
Like,
I'm sure there is.
and it doesn't reach them or
Mhm.
they don't,
Mhm.
it doesn't apply to them or
Right.
they say, well, well, maybe, but
Mhm.
I don't really care.
Mhm.
Do you think there's people like
Oh,
that?
for sure. Here's the thing:
Because
is
there's
I'm
the
not
other
here.
side that
I'm
people
not
are like,
here to.
yes, oh my gosh.
I'm not here to convert people. I'm here to tell somebody my experience and the things that I believe to be true because I've watched it change my life, and I know it could easily apply to somebody else's. And so, but I do believe that there's people that go, and people can dismiss me. People dismiss Jesus. Jesus said, "If the world hates you, remember it hated me first." I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I'm good with being in that, if people, I'm a seed planter. I'm only here because I want to plant anything that I've learned, give you examples of what that is, kind of give a little, I guess the way I say certain things, people appreciate how I say things or I explain them well enough. But I want to be able to explain something that might click and then you can go research. But my job isn't to convert you or to do all these things. My job is to plant a seed of what I know, share that with other people. And then what you and God do that with in your life, that's between y'all.
And it might, as a way of fellowshipping or
Mhm.
spreading the word, it might make it easier by platforms like this, allowing us to spread the word publicly and globally to people, especially on like YouTube and stuff like this, and
Everyone's
allow that
having
message
conversations
and allow that message to get out
Yep.
on a bigger spectrum to where somebody that might be looking or does need that,
Yep.
and it applies to them on that day that they happen to be looking or they watch this or it's shared by a friend.
And you never know. That's the thing is, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how this is going to be. I feel like between the two of us, we both have a lot to say about all sorts of things, and we don't even understand the whole precipice of what that looks like. But we do have a lot to say, and it does mean something because you can see the need for real truth in people's life. People are hurting, and people are struggling,
And it's not so
and it's
much
not about
just
giving
religion.
them.
It's
No, but they're struggling
everything
because
else.
it's the relationship. That's why it's not about religion. It's about
Make the
relationship.
table longer, like you were saying.
That's what it's about. You have to be able to do that with people and to love them and stuff like that. And so, because what is your faith without your deeds? You can't be somebody like, God bless you, and they're cold and you give them nothing. Like, what does that mean? Like if someone's cold, if they're hungry, give them some food. Like you just do stuff like that. I don't know. It's just
Nowadays,
I've
it's more
always-
so
But
all
that's
about
why I would-
selfish. It's like what I have, what I need, what I'm gonna do, what I want to have in my life, kind of thing. And a lot of people, and there are a lot of people. You're one of them. There are a lot of selfless people that
Oh,
will
thank
put
you.
others before. You are for sure. Like
I don't always
when
feel
I
like
give you-
that. So I don't. Sometimes
When-
I feel like I can be really selfish.
yeah, well, we all
and
can.
exactly.
Sometimes we need to be. Sometimes it's warranted. But when
But I
we're
love
at the bar,
people though, so I don't think about it. I love people. I just have always loved people.
so in the last episode, I came up and I gave you a hug. I
Mhm.
hadn't seen you in a while. We kind of talked here and there. Not that I was blowing you off, but we communicated this and this. We made a plan. It is what it is. But I gave you a hug. I said, "Hey, look, I'm sorry. It wasn't you. It's just I'm dealing with my own
Mhm.
stuff." You didn't get on me. You didn't say anything. You did make mention, "Hey, you got a lot going on. Let me tell you, I got some stuff too. I got my own stuff. We got a lot to say."
Mm-hmm.
That was it. But then you're like, "So what's going on, at home? What's going on with this?" And you left it at that, but you were so selfless to not, like I would say, "What about me? What about me? Look, listen to my problems."
Mm.
You wanted to hear more what I was dealing with, what I'm battling, what troubles I'm up against, what temptations have been thrown at me
Mm-hmm.
by the dark side kind of thing. And you were more interested in that than you were talking about what you have going on. And
Well, that's only
I
because that
appreciate
was the
that.
only thing that was keeping us from doing this, and so that's all I had to get through. And I get that, and it's okay because, but that's the thing is that, but I've learned through my experience, and I've become more understanding of what's what. And the thing is, if you always make it about, it's not about me. You see what I'm saying? It's just not about.
I can pull up a text. Hey, if I'm blowing you up or if I'm bothering you, please let me know and I'll stop.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But that's the thing is like, I will say publicly, please don't stop because I can't afford to have you stop.
Right.
And I don't want to be vulnerable and I don't want to be emotional or anything like that.
And saying I'm one of those where I'm like,
stop,
I won't because I'll always show up with it.
And that's the thing though. If you stop, it makes it easier for me to go back to that place.
Oh yeah. I'll never be a reason why you have an excuse.
There you go.
No, thank you. Excuses are like,
there you go.
A-holes. Everyone has one. And I'm over it. Like,
and they all stink.
Excuses are just so ridiculous. But like I said, you have to have grace for people. You have to love people. You have to show compassion to people. People are people. Like I said, they all have a legitimate need to be loved. And so when you make everything about you, you know what I mean? Like me, because I'm wanting to do. And the thing is, this wasn't easy for me to just come on to do something like this. I've had people tell me about, because, I used to sell unique makeup, and I would do little things on that too. And it was hard to go on, but when I want to talk about something, I want to talk about something like truly purposeful, something that means something outside of the meaningless things in our lives.
I 155,000% understand what you're saying from. Like in the app,
like this
last
made
episode,
it worth it. Like this type of talk is what makes me push for it, because I'm like, if I'm going to put myself out there and talk about something and put myself out there enough to get, because people already talk about me. Shout out to all my haters. People already talk about me, which is fine.
I couldn't have gotten where I am without you guys. Yep.
Like the reality is like, people get, but I am just to the point where I want to be able to talk purposefully, and I'm willing to put myself out there and to be chastised for something that I really believe is true.
I'm going to have Sam. So Sam has a, like, not official yet, but she makes a lot of stuff. It's Boo Buttons Boutique. That's her thing.
Shout out.
I'm going to have, shout out. I'm going to have her make some shirts, and it's going to say Shayla's Hater Club. And I'm going to say I'm in on the back kind of thing or something like that. But it's going to be Shayla's Haters Club.
I always tell people, take a number and wait in the waiting room with everybody else waiting for me to care.
We should gather up a lot of people and just have them sit there and be like, hey, I'm in, the club, and have a bunch of people just lined up 1 through like 100, just so many people.
And you know what? And here's the thing. And I'm going to tell you something, because people are like, oh, you just want to hate up. No. When I say people, and it's people that struggle with me, and I get that. And not everyone's going to like me, and I'm fine with that. If people in my life who, if people showed up today and say, hey, can we have this conversation? Believe me, I am the first one ready to have it. Because me, I'm all about the conversations. I'm all about let's fix it. Let's deal with it. Let's get into an understanding. Let's move forward. Like, who wants to be hindered with these feelings of, all this crap? Nobody. So if somebody called me and was like, hey, can we have this conversation? Believe me, I'll answer. I'll make it. But I'm also not going to butt my life into someone's life who chooses not to want me there. That's not nice. If you don't want me, that's okay. And when you do, call me up.
So kind of in closing, this will wrap. We're almost at the hour mark anyway.
Good luck researching all these things. Have fun with that, because let me tell you, it's so interesting.
I'll put some links in and stuff like that.
For sure.
But what would you? Okay, so where or both would you say if somebody? I mean, aside from reaching out to you and opening up the dialogue and stuff like that, and then they won't be able to get rid of you. That's a whole thing. But you can comment. You can reach out. There's Facebook. Reach out. She has no problem answering or talking. She does it literally for a living. She literally works in a bar.
It's my unpaid job that I have.
She runs a counseling business, and she also serves drinks while she's doing that. So what would you say to somebody that would maybe is kind of teetering on, man, I don't like where my life is. I want it to be better. I've done this and nothing works out. And not so much I need Jesus, but at the same time, I need something. I need something, and I'm missing. There's a void. Where would be your recommendation? And be very basic. Not
I'm gonna tell you how
this
basic
verse,
it
this
is.
verse, go to church, go to this.
I'm gonna tell you how basic it is. You find people that you can be vulnerable with and start talking. You cannot go anywhere.
Can you do that on our Facebook thing? On our Facebook page? Can they do that comfortably?
What?
Be vulnerable on there?
Yeah.
No criticism.
No.
Direct message if you need to.
No, yeah. And if you can't, but you need, direct message if you need to. But you find people in your life, people that you can talk to. Because the reality is, if you're the only one giving yourself information. You're in your head because you're not having conversations. You're only mulling over the same crap in your head. You can't do anything new with old information. You have to actually talk it out and figure out, because sometimes when I finally talk out an issue, I can hear what I'm needing to hear or not needing to hear, or being like, oh, hold on.
And literally as you're talking and saying it, you're answering your question going, oh,
but if you stay in your head for so long by yourself, you're going to get nowhere. You need to talk to people. You need to have these conversations. You need to communicate. When people say communication is the key, it is the only key to get anywhere. It opens up a multitude of doors to start speaking to people. So you can call a stranger if it's easier. Like I said, I am always available. People call me all the time. People message me all the time. But you talk to somebody, and not somebody that's going to, you be careful on who you talk to. You don't want to yes know the person. Difference.
Yeah.
And you already know who you can't talk to, because if you could have, you would have already. So don't keep thinking about those people that you know you can't talk to. If someone pops in your head that makes you feel like, I would love to talk to them, but I don't know if I can. Or
questions things that make you question things.
That's who you call.
Call that person.
Call that person. Whoever
call
pops
that person
in your head
that questions you on questioning things. Yes.
Call the person when they pop in your head. And you're like, I would love to talk to them, but I don't know if I can. Call that person. The person you know you can't talk to, quit thinking that you can call them, because you can't. As if you could have, you would have, but you didn't. So
in this circumstance, I'm going to flip the script real quick and we'll close out and stuff. But you want to build the table, make it longer, pull down the walls, make the table longer. That way that person that's searching has a place to sit.
Yes.
So we encourage you guys, and I'm sorry for the acronyms and all that stuff. Sorry, not sorry. But what we're going to do, Shayla's bringing down the walls. We're going to make the table bigger so you have a place to sit. What your job and your call to action is, sit down at that damn table.
Yeah, sit down. Have a conversation.
Sit down. Sit down at the table.
I'm hoping that one day, with people who are, locally here, if somebody is wanting to engage in this conversation.
I mean, virtually, we're all local now. Virtually, we can all be local.
But you can be, but there's something about people in person.
In person, for the energy.
The energy. And the thing is, we can affect those people more readily, right? But if anybody
body language speaks volumes, and so does the
has
aurora
ever
coming off
wanted
of them.
to engage because they have a question or whatever, you know what I mean? Feel free. And now if you, and I'm going to tell you this right now, because a lot of people like to be like, what about this religion? I don't know a multitude about other religions. I know enough about other religions, but I'm not here to defend a religion I know nothing about. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's not, if you guys have a question about the things that we're talking about, totally. If you have questions about other religions, I may not necessarily know how to answer them, because if I don't follow it or, know anything about it, I don't want people to be like, oh, well, then you don't know. It's not, you kind of have to ask those who engage in those conversations. But if this is a conversation that you ever think that you might want to engage with JJ and I, we can build a longer table.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the next segment that we have, we may or may not have a guest. And you might have somebody in mind. I might have somebody in mind.
We'll see what we can do.
I think it'd be cool. Yeah. Just to have them here in person.
Yep.
Chime in maybe once in a while if they want. But just listen in person. And sometimes you can just see, especially when you say certain things. And
I've seen JJ's face when we haven't been recording talking. He's like,
True.
Yo.
Guys, that's going to wrap it up.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you taking the time to spend with us and listening to us. If you have questions, if you have comments, please like and share. Hopefully we'll see you guys sooner than later.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yes, sir.
Subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend. Bless. You guys have a good one.
Jesus
Thank you so
real.
much.
Have a good day.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye. That was fun.
It is. It's always so fun.
You were getting deep.
Well, I can talk about pretty much anything ever, all day long.
You were getting deep with it.
It is not even that deep.
It's
these
funny
are just
because
very
you're so
surface
passionate
things.
about it.
I know, but it's not even. But they're very surface things. The thing is that these are very like small parts of this huge story, and it's like, to me, I'm like, deep. We can get deep,